Yesterday was a big day in town. You had multiple press conferences taking place from groups and folks and town halls on all sides, both sides, I should say, of this upcoming April 2nd vote, where you will determine whether or not to continue the 3/8 cent sales tax for another couple of decades for the Chiefs and the Royals. Former Kansas City Mayor Sly James joins us on KCMO Talk Radio. Sly, good morning. Long time no talk. How are you?
How are you, Pete? How's everything?
I'm doing well. Hey, let's just start off with this. I know you're on the yes side of this. For people that have not heard why, as the former mayor in this town, why are you a proponent of this 3/8 cent sales tax for the Chiefs and the Royals?
Well, I am in support of this vote because I believe that it's the best way to keep the teams in Jackson County, Missouri. All the Chiefs are asking for is a continuation of the same tax level that they've enjoyed for the previous 25 years at 3/8 cents of a sales tax over the next 40 years. That will allow them to do the things that are necessary to provide first-class stadiums for the teams, and it'll allow the Royals to build a new stadium that is necessary because they've really outgrown Kaufman, and there are some serious structural issues with Kaufman.
Mm-hmm. You know, I know you've heard all the talking points across the board on this thing, but for those who sit there and have concerns and feel like, hey, are the teams kind of threatening us? Are they saying, well, if you don't pass this, we're going to look at other options? Do you think that those threats are legitimate? Do you not view it as a threat? How do you perceive that thought that has been floated out there that the teams could bolt or leave Jackson County or even leave the region at large?
I think it is an answer to the question that was asked. What happens if the tax doesn't fail? The teams have said, we'll have to look at all of our options. What else would they say? At the end of the day, these leases run out in 2031, and the Royals have said they will not play in the stadium after 2031 because of the things that need to be done there and the costs associated with it. So I don't look at it as a threat. I think it's just an answer to the question when people say, well, what happens if it doesn't fail? I'm not sure exactly what the teams would say, other than that they'll have to look at their options to see what they can do.
How do you compare, because I know you were pretty instrumental back in 2006 when this tax first came to be, to upgrade both stadiums out there at the complex. How do you perceive this moment almost 20 years later to that moment back in 2006 when it seemed like there was, I don't know if it's just the political environment we're in today, but it seemed like despite the fact that teams were not as good as they are now, certainly the Chiefs, people were more willing to go ahead with it than they seem to be today. Is that surprising to you, and do you have that read on it right now?
To some extent, yes, but I do think a lot of it has to do with the political environment. It's a much more populist engagement right now than it used to be. That's certainly one thing about it. I think the change is a little more radical than it was. Then it was keep both of the stadiums there and renovate. Now it's renovate one and remove the other and build a new. So I think that's part of it. People don't like the way things are, but they absolutely hate change. And this is a change that they obviously are not as enthusiastic about. We still believe, however, that this vote will pass because without this 3/8 cent sales tax, nothing else can move forward. No conversations with the state or the city are going to move forward without this foundational support. The 3/8 cent sales tax generates about $50 million a year. $30 million of that is used to pay for the bonds that were used in the renovation and continue to pay those off, and they'll be paid off by 2031. And if the balance of it after the $30 million is spent for the bond debt, then the rest of it is split between the teams for repairs and maintenance of the stadium. The teams are spending above that every year in order to keep the stadiums in the condition that they are now.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that has to happen is that since sales tax doesn't pass, then there has to be some other method by which the bonds would be paid and the stadiums will be maintained. And right now there isn't one.
Sly James, former mayor, of course, in Kansas City, is on KCMO. He is an advocate for the yes side of the April 2nd sales tax vote for the Chiefs and the Royals. The more controversial part, and you noted it there, is, of course, the Royals leaving Kauffman Stadium, going downtown. They've picked the Old Star building, the Crossroads site. What would you do? I mean, as a guy who, ran successfully twice for mayor and knows the grassroots political game that sometimes needs to be played, what would you do when it comes to how to handle the businesses in the Crossroads who are very loud right now in media and social media and saying, hey, we're being displaced, this will change the Crossroads, and you've certainly seen that during your time as mayor. How would you be handling that right now if you're the Royals?
The same way that they are handling it. They've met with 20 of the 22 property owners. We are close to negotiating an MOU with the Crossroads Community Association, where they've asked for a number of things, and we've been willing to provide those things that they're asking for. They represent the businesses and people in the Crossroads. We're negotiating with the Arts KC group in order to make sure that the culture of the Crossroads is maintained once the stadium is there. So I think they're doing exactly what they need to do in order to convince people that this is something that doesn't need to be feared and could turn out to be a pretty good deal. The Jackson County itself is going to be in better shape because whereas right now the county pays for insurance costs and pays some of the money from a parks tax, that parks tax will be returned to the county. The teams will pick up the insurance costs. That will provide the county with an additional $200 million over the life of the contract and the leases. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that would be done. We're meeting with people in the Crossroads every single day. We have agreed to most of the things they want on their CBA, and we're close to signing an MOU to that effect and moving forward because it's a problem. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it, but it's a problem that has solutions and ones that we are looking to find and implement in order to make sure that there is the least possible disruption of businesses in the Crossroads as possible.
What about the fact, and you know this, what's going on right now with Jackson County, just the issues around the assessments, people's assessments going up, their property taxes going up, and the backlash, despite the fact that it has nothing to do with the teams. You know as well as I do, when people get emotional and they're voting on something, it may not be about the issue. It just may be to send a message. Should the teams be concerned about that? And how realistic do you think that is in creating this blowback and possibly resulting in the no side coming out on top?
Well, I think there's certainly some impact on that. And frankly, the Jackson County property tax assessment has been pretty controversial and somewhat botched. So I understand their situation with that as well. But the bottom line is that these are two separate issues, and, crossing over one could cost you on the other. The bottom line here is that we need to keep these teams in Jackson County, Missouri. Having them leave, if that's what would happen, certainly has no benefit to the city in any shape or way. So we've got to find ways to resolve these problems and move forward.
Mm-hmm. Last thing I keep thinking about, Sly, I heard Mark Donovan say this yesterday, how these are county-owned stadiums. But, of course, the Royals are negotiating and working on the premise that, they're going to pick the builders and the people that are going to do the jobs. Whereas with the airport, which, of course, you spearheaded, it was the city that ended up picking all these, builders and vendors and things like that. Should the county be in charge of that if they're county-owned properties?
No. The county should have some oversight in order to make sure that they're built in a good way. But at the end of the day, since the Royals are the ones that will be spending about $1.1 billion on the stadiums and the surrounding area, which is more than half of the cost, they need to pick the builder and the designer. And frankly, they're picking people who are local, Populous and others, to do the work. There's only so many engineering and architectural firms that build stadiums, so it's a pretty easy call there. Mm-hmm. But No, I don't think the county should do it. I think the county would be better off spending its time trying to figure out the property tax issue.
Well, I agree there. He is Sly James, the former mayor of Kansas City, a yes advocate. The vote is 3 weeks from today. Sly, thanks for the time. We appreciate it, and we'll be in touch with you over the next few weeks.
All right, Pete, take care of yourself.
All right, you as well. That is Sly James, the former mayor of Kansas City on KCMO.